Hey, this is Adam with Tech Dive AV Club, and today we're going to be talking about Bezier masking and motion tracking. And so I want to show you something that Tech Dive did. This is my business partner Steven, and
31 right here. And
this is one of our reviews, and he's got some great motion tracking going on right there. He was the first person out of the two of us to do motion tracking. And I'll tell you, the reason I didn't do motion tracking right off the gate is because it's a little difficult to do right. And his was great, but it's a little difficult to do the way you want it to do consistently every time. So what I'm going to try and do is give you a tutorial that teaches you not just like where the buttons are and how you can do it yourself, but how you can do it right yourself. How you can do it multiple things, some more in-depth things, really to get you launched. So that way, as you start experimenting with motion tracking yourself, you're gonna start knowing how, like, what you need to do for planning purposes, what you can just impromptu do motion tracking for, really, so you just have a better understanding of motion tracking and Bezier masking in general. And this one's on Vegas Pro 17. I'm gonna be doing the same thing for Movie Studios 16 Platinum. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to watch our footage. You're going to see here, this is just a little from a sketch thing I did on our channel. It's actually where I made a clone of myself talking to myself. You can find that video if you would like. But right here, there's a little section there where I just kind of go behind a door. And I want you to see some things about this clip. We're gonna start with motion tracking my face. It's a very basic thing to motion track, and then we're gonna talk about motion tracking different types of things. But my face for motion tracking for this one, you're gonna notice a couple things. One, my face leaves the screen at one point, and two, my face leaves the screen again at another point. So first thing, I want you to actually take a look at what you're planning on motion tracking and the clip, and I want you to right-click and copy. And then right click, insert video track. You need another video track above it. Right click and paste. And then line up these two video tracks. If they're snapped together, then you'll see that they're frame for frame the exact same image duplicated. This is just going to make some things easier along the way. You don't have to do it this way, but I'm going to suggest that you do this because it gives you more flexibility with how you use the Bezier masking and motion tracking. And so the first thing you need to do is scroll through with your arrow keys. Now I'm assuming that you know how to use the software. If you pick this up and you're like, I'm going to do motion tracking, and you've never really edited, you need to check out one of my beginner tutorials first and get a little practice in, because this is definitely an intermediate kind of use to intermediate to advanced, really. So my face leaves there. And I can arrow through, hold the arrow key down if I want to scroll a little faster. So now we're going to scroll through and we're going to find the second time, well, when my face returns to the screen, which is here. And then we're going to find when my face leaves again, which is here. So I'm going to delete this, and then I'm going to delete this part because those parts don't matter for the motion tracking, because my face isn't there, and if we're motion tracking my face, then that's what matters. So what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to double check and make sure I didn't move anything here. Okay, if there's no jump cuts or stuttering, then everything should be good. Then this original video cuts in right when this one cuts out. So I want to hit Control and hit select all of these. You can also use this select option down here. Select all of these and then hit the G key. Now these are grouped together. So now we're not gonna get them messed up. They're not gonna leave their positions unless you have this selected down here, which I do, which is the ignore group event grouping. So if you get that unselected, then you can see right here, then it's all going to stay together. And so we want that to stay together so we don't get it messed up. So now on to the actual Bezier masking. You're going to need to go to your video effects tab, And it's right here on the top, Bezier masking. It's in alphabetical order. And we'll drop it on our first clip here. So drop it on the clip. Don't drop it on the track, because we're going to do it twice. We're going to do it once for this one and once for this one. So I want you to see first here there's general options, and there's mask 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5. Really what this is you can create 5 separate motion tracked masks on this one Bezier masking plugin here. Now what I'm going to suggest is we don't touch those other masks right now. You just need one mask to do what we're going to do. That's for more complicated things that we're going to get to later. So don't worry about those. We just need the general options, and we need mask 1 open. So you can see here if I hover over and select kind of somewhere in the middle, that it's just got a random little mask here. And blending the fields doesn't help because we have something identical underneath it. So I'm going to take a quick break, and I'm going to show you this. You don't have to do this yourself. I'm going to do this to make it easier for you to see what I'm doing. I'm going to go to color balance, and I'm going to make this one really funky looking. There. So I'm going to take that effect off later. That's not part of the tutorial. I just want you to see what's going on. See how there's an actual mask? There's a cutout section. This looks like the cookie cutter effect. There's a cutout section that I'm seeing, and then everything behind it is the other video, the video from the blower track. So we're going to go back to the effects. You can do that by just clicking this little effects button right here. You can do is you can actually blend it to where you can see both at the same time. For what I'm doing, I don't need to do that because I have them copied, but if you're doing something and you're like, man, I really wish I could see what's behind it, you can blend it to see what you're doing. The blend option will also kind of blend your mask away and take it back. You can animate that. If you want to learn about animation, check out my tutorial right here. But you can animate that with this animate keyframes. What you can do is you can also invert it. So now I'm cutting away the middle and leaving everything else there, or by default it cuts away the outside and leaves the middle. So that's up to you depending on what you need. We're going to talk about this mask FX layer in a minute, so don't touch that. First off, we're going to motion track, and we want to motion track my face. So one thing you could do is just select oval. Now we have an oval picture, and you can drag this in here on the sides, drag this up, set the center on my face, and you can kind of make it kind of custom fit my face there. Now the thing about this is you need the middle is what's going to be motion tracked, right? You want to put that right on my nose, right on the middle of my face, because that's where it's going to motion track. It's going to use the contrast between my glasses and my nose. It's going to use that. It's going to find the math there and follow that. So you can also do something different. So what if you're like, yeah, but an oval doesn't work for whatever I'm motion tracking? You can go to curve. Now with curve, you can just cut it out like this. You'll get this tool automatically. If you want more details about using this tool, please check out my masking tutorial, because this is the masking tool for custom masking. It works the exact same way as custom masking does in the Event Pan Crop. So please check out that tutorial if you're wanting more info there. But if you complete a circle, so draw a line, just dot, 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 it'll connect the dots automatically. When you click the last dot in the circle, it will complete the mask. And then you need to uncheck edit mode, because edit mode is where you're editing your mask. When you're done with that, uncheck edit mode and you'll go back, and now you got a mask that's in a custom shape. See, it's a weird, awkward shape of my face. It's got a little my hairline in it now. So now, whatever mask you decide to use, remember that is cutting out everything around it, or if you invert it, it's cutting out the face itself. So you can also, the way I adjusted the height and the rotation and everything, you can adjust the rotation like this with this rotation knob on the circle here. Going to hit Control Z a couple of times. If you mess up, just hit Control Z and get it back to normal. I just want to show you that rotation as well. What you also see is you can adjust these with width 1, height 1, angle 1, opacity 1, feather 1. That 1 refers to mask 1, so that you don't get confused when you're working down here on a multi-layer mask. So this is just really what you're adjusting there are these options. Your feather will blur the edges, and you can make it blur only inwards. You can make it blur outwards, see? Or you can make it do both, which is what most people typically do if they want a feather on. We're not going to put a feather on because we don't need one, but that's how you can kind of hide your effect there, or make your effect less harsh of a transition. Now again, there's many ways to do this. If this is just, we're talking about face masking right now, we're going to get into more details about other types of masking and tracking later. But tracking is this option right here, and you need to expand the options, and you need to go to high. I don't think anybody wants a normal precision. I think everybody's looking for high precision because that's why you're motion tracking. You want the computer to do this for you, and you want the computer to do a good job of it. So I always select high, and then we're just going to need location. Rotation and shape will do. We'll actually change the shape to match. I'm not going to worry about that right now because this kind of mask is going to do great even as my head turns and turns. What your keyframe interval is, if you don't know anything about keyframing, I would highly suggest that you've keyframed something first before you use motion tracking. So again, you can check out that tutorial up here. But if you drop your keyframes down to 1, you're going to want 1 keyframe per 1 frame of video. So that's how many keyframes per frames of video you have. Obviously, the smaller the number, the better motion tracking you're going to get. Now, you can move your cursor right here to the start of the clip, and then you can hit start. And you're going to see that it's going to draw out all these keyframes through here. It's manually tracking everything. You're not going to see it happen here. You're going to see, you can't see it on my other monitor, but there's a render options thing. And so this changes the X location and the Y location. You can see that there's some changes going on here in this event panel. And you can actually custom do it too. You can custom track as well. So if you see a minor mistake, you can actually fix the minor mistakes and only the minor mistakes if you would like. But you can look, as I click through this timeline, click through these keyframes, it actually tracks my face. You can see that it's going with me as I walk out of the room. And it's not changing the shape because I didn't ask it to. So, what I did was I actually had pre-cut this off here. So now you see that the mask goes away when it doesn't see my face anymore. Now, if you had left something like this on, your motion tracking may stop in the middle. If it stops, select a new place or the same place, kind of fix the mask manually, put it where you want it, and then hit start again, and it will start motion tracking from that moment on. And so that's how you would fix it if it stops randomly, because that's just a point where it's like, I'm not sure where to go next. Help it along and hit start again, and you'll keep moving. So if you kind of cut out some of the nitty-gritty parts for it, it will help it out a lot. So now we actually have a motion tracked mask here. And so for this first part, what I want to do is I want to get rid of this color effect now that you know the difference, and I want to add an effect. And so now we're going to talk about masking out just the effect. So I want to show you how you can mask just the effect as well. So that's just a mask, right? I can make anything I want show through or show around the mask, and you can infer what to do with it there. But what if you want to just actually mask out only the effect? What you can do is you can drop a new effect that you want. I'm going to go with newsprint because it's going to be kind of obvious and kind of fun. We're going to drop it right here. Now you can see my face is newsprinted out. What that happened because I have this layered right here. If you don't have the layering, what you can do is you can actually drop newsprint before Bezier masking, and then you can select the mask effect only, and then it will only mask out the effect and it won't be cutting away the rest of the video. So if I mute this track underneath it, you can see that it's not cutting anything away, while if I take this option away, you can see that it's actually cutting out the rest of the track and showing the effect. But this just makes it mask only the effect and doesn't cut away the rest of the track. So that's the difference. I have this extra track down here for my purposes, but you don't necessarily have to have this copy of what you're doing. That just might help you do more finer details or give you more options on what you can do for your effects. So I just wanted that to be clear how that's working. So if you remember mask effects, newsprint's got to be first in the chain for Bezier masking to actually find the effect to mask it out. So now what's cool is you can actually watch my newsprinted face. There we go. So now what I want to do is I want to actually motion track some text. So motion tracking text is very similar to motion tracking a face, because you need to do the same thing. You need to create a mask, and you need to get all of this tracking data. You have to get this tracking data. And once you have it, what's cool is, and you're going to want to do the layering as well. The video layering I showed you in the beginning, if you're motion tracking text, you're going to want to do that layering. So once you grabbed all your data and you want to motion track text, you go up here to Tools, Extensions, and now this might be different if you're in a different version of Vegas. So for Vegas Pro 17, it's in Extensions. If you're in 16, it might be in Scripting. So keep that in mind. But in Extensions, go to Add Text to Motion Track. And you're going to want to pick the offset. I'm going to pick an X offset of 0.5, just a little bit, because and a Y offset just to show you what this does. Maybe an X offset of 0 and a Y offset of 0.1. So your X and your Y, just like in math class, your X goes this way, your Y goes this way. If you've got a Y offset up, your text is going to track this, but it's going to be above it. Or if it's a Y offset down, your text is going to track this and it's going to be below it. But you're building this off of your Bezier motion tracking data that I had selected. Remember, I had to select it when I went to Tools and Scripting. So going to give it a little bit of Y offset and hit OK. There we go. Now above my head, I have a placeholder text. So I can hit this text editing right here. And that opens up my text editing window. And you can see all this motion tracking data has been brought with it. So now I can change it to whatever I want. I can change the size. Well, I got to highlight it first. Change the size. There we go. Now, if we watch this from the start, player 1 tracks with my head. So that's how to motion track text as well. So now you can have motion track text, you can have motion tracked effects, you can have motion track masking. That's a lot of motion tracking. The next natural question is, can you motion track images? As of now, my understanding is the answer is no. Okay, so this is the part of motion tracking where I feel like it's going to get confusing for people. And this is the part that you need to really understand, is that motion tracking works off contrast. So if I solo, well, let me show you what this little clip shows here. I have a little thing of a Korok jumping off of my hand. Now I want you to know the Korok itself, and if you don't know what a Korok is, it's a little creature from the Legend of Zelda games. I took it from the game and shopped it on my hand here. The Korok jumps out of my hand and back in. That part is manually tracked. So I've got this pre-cut out, blue screen footage chroma key. That's its own effect there. What is motion tracked in this shot is the shadow, the drop shadow. I wanted it to have a drop shadow on my hand. And if you notice, my hand goes down and the drop shadow goes down. And the hand goes up and the drop shadow goes up. And I actually have a fade and everything on the drop shadow too. I had a lot of fun making this little thing. But I want to show you something. If I solo this bottom track only, you see something on my hand. What's on my hand is I drew a big black dot. That dot is not meant to be the pretend drop shadow. That dot did two things. One, it was a location that actually helped me track the manual tracking of the Korok myself, because I could track the Korok and position like where it should look based off the little pin drawing on my hand. But this made all the difference in Vegas Pro being able to motion track my hand. So, see, as the dot on my hand, I just drew it in there. I've shot this before and it didn't work. I shot it and I made a mask on my hand and it could not track it at all. Why? Because there was nothing to track. I just gave it a big pink circle and said track this, and it was like, I don't understand what you want. I probably could have opened it up and made it track my entire hand, but then the hole would have been very big. Maybe if I opened it up, tracked my entire hand, and then made it go up and down. But the point of this is it helps every motion tracking software. If you look at Hollywood productions and stuff like that, they're always using these big high contrast dots and pluses, because those kinds of things help the program make decisions about motion tracking and rotation and location and all that stuff. So I just put a dot on my hand, and that made all the difference in the world. It motion tracked it seamlessly, and now you can see the final result here is a dot that tracks to my hand, because I was able to put that motion dot there. So I want you to know that this effect may need some planning, and it may need some motion tracking dots to help you along. If you don't have any high contrast areas for it to follow, it's going to have trouble following. It follows faces pretty well, because faces are kind of a general high contrast thing that's usually framed around it. There's usually a big backdrop. It's something that the computer can find. But if you're not motion tracking a face and you didn't put any motion tracking dots or didn't do any planning about contrast, don't be surprised when you have a little trouble motion tracking it. So that is my in-depth Bezier masking motion tracking tutorial for Vegas Pro 17. I'm going to be doing this again for movie studios as well. And like if this helped you out, please. Subscribe if you're looking for more. If you want to do motion tracking and you don't have it, you can buy motion tracking. You can buy the software through our affiliates link, and that would help me out a ton. Please subscribe to Skillshare. If you're looking to try out Skillshare, you can do it for free for 2 months through our link. And I got a class on there as well. And if you go through Skillshare, that also helps me out a lot. Skillshare's got a lot of great tutorials for learning things, and I'm putting stuff on there as well, and I'm going to continue putting stuff on there and continue putting stuff on YouTube. So thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.